give everybody out there listening a very warm Whitecat welcome, because you're tuned in to the Whitecat Outdoors podcast. What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's, the 4th episode of the Whitecat Outdoors. We got a pretty packed house in here tonight. We got Luke sitting right over here to my right.
How we doing, everybody?
And Tommy's over to my left.
Glad to be here, guys.
Straight across from me, we got Nick.
Hey, what's going on?
And our first ever guest, we've never had one on the podcast before. Tonight's first night. It's one of our good buddies. We've known him for a couple years now. We do a lot of fishing stuff together. It's Hunter Klobucar.
Hey guys, happy to be on here.
Yeah, thanks for coming, buddy. We really appreciate you. So before we get into anything crazy, I just got one question for those of you that are just listening. You can't see, but Hunter's rocking a pretty dope cast on that right arm, looking pretty good. So what happened, buddy?
Well, I just got back to Edinburgh, about to start the semester off, and I decided I was going to go out with a couple buddies, go out to the bar, have a drink, and we just get there, order a beer, and me and my buddy get this idea we're going to do a little arm wrestling. So, we arm wrestle all the time. It's fun times, and we go to the back room, and we line up, and we do a little pull, and as soon as we lock arms and start going, it just sounded like someone snapped the table right in half, and I looked down and my arm's just dangling.
How loud was I was telling Tom after you did it, I was like, I've always wanted to be there when somebody does that, because I've seen videos of it and it looks ridiculous. Not to like laugh at you, but I've always wanted to see somebody do that. Like, what does it sound like?
The sound is just like something you never hear before. It's something that's just like stuck in my head on repeat all the time. It's like that nasty of a sound, but it just sounds like you take a 2x4 and just break it over your knee, and you look down and holy smokes, my arm's dangling, and get me to the hospital ASAP. You know what I'm saying?
I was sitting at home and just getting ready to go to bed, and me and Hunter had plans to go to breakfast the next morning, and we were going to plan a Florida fishing trip together over breakfast. And he called me at 11:30, said, hey buddy, I won't be at breakfast tomorrow morning. And I was, well, why, what's going on? He was like, I just broke my arm wrestling. And I was like, well, did you break it or tear something? He's like, nope, snapped it. And I was like, all right, well, get off the phone with me and just worry about getting your arm better.
I had like the same experience. He texted me, I don't remember what we were talking about, but he's like, yeah, I just broke my arm. I was like, you literally broke it or you just messed it up? He's like, no, it's straight up broken.
She's broken.
Was that when he sent the x-ray picture to us? Because like we were talking a little bit about it, and I get the picture of the x-ray and I was like, oh boy, that's definitely broke.
Yeah, well, when we were talking about it, I don't know if it was the night that it happened or the next day, but I was like, that's freaking wicked, man. And then he sent us the x-ray. I was like, bleh.
Yeah, it ain't pretty, that's for sure. It's funny, the first thing I thought of was that I gotta call Luke Soboleski and tell him, hey, you know what, I'm not gonna be at breakfast tomorrow because my arm is dangling right now.
I was laughing so hard, I was like, get off the phone.
I didn't even call any, you were the first person I called.
I was like, just get better.
First thing that was on your mind was planning fishing trips.
Yep. Not even calling the mall, the pa. I just said, I can't let Luke down tomorrow, he has to know.
How did Mom and Pa react when you told them you broke it arm wrestling?
They just said, sometimes you do stupid things and you should think before you do those things. And here we are, I'm out. I probably got 6 weeks recovery at least, and all my buddies are hunting, fishing, going steelheading, and I can't even do anything. So it's just awful. It's the worst thing.
Timed that perfectly with your first week of class. You broke it on a Saturday and had class on Monday?
Saturday night and Monday morning we're going to chemistry lab. So
that's still this week. That first week's pretty easy stuff.
And I'm right hand dominant to make everything better. So
yeah, I guess for the people, obviously there's no camera. It is his right arm. So
now you can just get some cute girl to write all your notes in class.
Yeah, any cute girls out there, in Edinburgh University, I could use some help.
Oh, that's hilarious. So anyway, I guess we'll get right into it now. So, I guess just give us kind of a rundown, like what gets you like into like where did you start fishing? Where are you from, first of all?
Yeah, why don't we start? Who you are? Where we can find you, maybe on Instagram or whatever. Kind of give us a rundown of who Hunter Klobucar really is.
Hunter Klobucar. Well, I'm the son of Tim Klobucar. We're from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, about 2 hours south of Edinburgh, where I go to school. And if you want to check me out on Instagram, it's just Hunter_Klobucar. You can check out some of my hunting fishing posts there. But yeah, I got into the outdoors at honestly a really early age. My dad has been hunting ever since in high school, and by the time I was 3 years old, I was out there ice fishing with him. There's a picture of me catching fish with him out on the ice, and 4 or 5 years old, I'm out in the woods with them, sitting at the bottom of the tree stand and freezing my butt off, but I just fell in love with it right then and there, and ended up hunting a lot, shooting guns, fishing, trout camp up in Ligonier, Pennsylvania. We'd go up there every year since I was just about that age as well, and ended up getting really into the outdoors and taking my first deer when I was 7 years old, and since then I just started shooting bows, and that was it for me. Just all-time outdoorsman.
Actually, 7 years old, you got your first deer?
Yes, sir. That's right.
All right, we're back. Sorry about the technical difficulties here. Hunter, you were talking here?
Yeah, I was just saying how when I was young, I would go to all these states that had mentor programs. I was like 8, 9 years old, and would do hunting in West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and just hunt. All my time was spent hunting, and once Pennsylvania adopted that program, was really into it. By then I was able to go out pretty much on my own behind the house. We had some, I think like 10 acres, and ended up taking a couple bucks out of a couple ladder stands out there. I think I was like 10, 11 years old. I grinded my first buck in and shot him with a compound bow. Back when Diamond came out with that youth model where you could shoot like 40K Rage. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so, I've just been in the outdoors pretty much my whole life, and then picked up fly fishing when I was in high school, around 15 years old, and been obsessed with that really ever since, and kind of chose to go to school up at Edinburgh because of steelhead fishing, and so...
You actually, you started a fly fishing club at Edinburgh, didn't you?
Yeah, my freshman year came up, tried Unlimited. I went actually to Lancaster fly fishing show. Me and one of my best buddies from high school, we got into fly fishing together. We just run around, and we took a trip down to that fly fishing show, and I ended up saving a flyer from Trout Unlimited to start your own fly fishing club in college, in case my college didn't have one. Got there, turns out Edinburgh University didn't have one, so I called and got it all set up.
You're telling me that there's colleges out there without a fly fishing club?
I'm telling you, there is probably a few out there.
That's actually crazy, though, for being this is like the capital for fly fishing for steelhead. I'm actually kind of surprised that there's not, so props to you for starting one.
Yeah, I mean, come on now, like world-class fishing, steelhead fishing. We didn't even have a fly fishing club, so we got that started up and really got a lot of people on the university involved into fly fishing and the sport of the outdoors, which is something just amazing. And if you're listening, you're going to go to college or your college doesn't have one, it's really easy to set up. It's the Trout Unlimited 5 Rivers program. It's just something really remarkable. It's like 100-plus colleges across the United States all network together. You meet up once a year, and you fish. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really awesome program. But like, where you grew up around Pittsburgh, you said, were you doing like mostly river fishing, or like how many lakes are down around there? I've never really fished the area. So
I'm from like just outside of Pittsburgh, about 40 minutes suburban. A lot of lakes around, but we had a cabin in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, which is pretty mountainous. It's right, I think it's like west of the Laurel Highlands, and we had a camp there, and I just grew up going to my mom's camp in Ligonier, my dad's camp, and we just would fish 4 Mile Run, Loy Hannah, just trout fishing, just awesome stuff. And then we'd hunt mountains up there and for deer and turkey. Best turkey hunting. It's my favorite to go up there, go turkey hunting. It's just awesome.
You took trips up here to Erie while you were still living down in Pittsburgh before you ever even came to Edinburgh, didn't you?
Yeah, that's kind of how I knew about Edinburgh, because I would come up steelhead fishing with my dad and my old football coach. He was into steelhead fishing. He knew I liked fishing. He's like, hey, you know what? We got to take you up there and get your hands on a steelhead. So I think I went up steelhead fishing in like 7th, 8th grade. And I was pretty young back then and fell in love with that ever since. And then while I was in high school, we started going to New York. Once I'd take a week off of school, we'd go salmon and brown trout fishing up there. And that's really when it just like clicked for me. I was like, this stuff is just freaking awesome. Like, can't beat this. And
we've taken a couple trips to New York together, and just holding a 15-pound brown trout or a 18 to 20-pound king salmon, like there's nothing like it.
I bet Frank has some better fishing experiences than us.
Not really with fly fishing, honestly, because I mean I fly fish a little bit, but I'm not like big into it like you and Luke are.
Yeah.
So like
You never seen the salmon runs out in Alaska while you're out there or anything? I mean,
well, I actually for a couple of years I actually did commercial fishing. I commercially fished the silver run for a few years, and so I saw my fair share of salmon.
A couple salmon.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all netting. There was no fly fishing
it's
going
still
on
probably
there.
something incredible.
Oh yeah, it's insane. To catch like our biggest day that we ever had, it was like 19,000 pounds of silver salmon in one day. So
wow,
I've seen my share of fish, just not off the end of a fly rod.
Yeah. So I'm pretty inexperienced when it comes to fly fishing, especially for salmon that size. Do you want to give me a real rundown? Just like I just can't even imagine fighting a fish that size, because like I've caught a couple steelhead, and dude, they just take that line just going. I just can't even imagine.
So if you're gonna target bigger fish species, especially up in New York, they're a lot bigger in that 8 to 15 pound range is like your average fish that you're gonna pick up. So you definitely want something a little bit bigger if you're gonna fly fish. Like I'd recommend no lighter than an 8 weight. You can go up to a 9 weight for kings. 8 weight's really a good rod size. If that way you can have a little back bend and really fight the fish out. I don't like to be able to horse them in, but
you want to be able to get them in quick enough so you don't tire them out too much, because obviously they fight pretty hard, and you want to make sure you have a good release with them. So don't go up there with too light a tackle.
No. I mean, I've seen quite a few rods up there just completely break on somebody when they're fighting king salmon. I mean, they'll take a couple 100 yards of line out just like that. And when you're in those rivers with all those people, it's just crazy. But 8 weight rod, you want to 8 to 10 weight reel, good line, 8 weight line, lots of backing, and then depending on the water, read the water. If you can go down to 6 pound test, but you're probably going to snap a lot of fish off. But sometimes it takes to go the whole way down to get some bites. But I like to usually stick to 8 or 10 pound if I'm going for king salmon. Run about 12 pound fluorocarbon, egg patterns, streamers, and it depends what you're fishing for. But that's pretty much what I like to use up there.
Yeah, I got to get into that because, I mean, I'm all about getting out in the outdoors and stuff, and that's one place I haven't really gotten into. Like, I did a little bit of steelhead fishing, and, Luke and actually you too have turned me on to that, and I love it. It's just, I don't know, something about a 15-pounder on a fly rod, because, I mean, I have a blast watching them steelhead jumping out of the water and just going nuts.
I mean, I love steelhead fishing in Erie, but anymore it's just like I'd rather be elsewhere, especially going up to New York. It's just as crowded as the Erie anymore. I mean, Erie's just packed full of people recently.
It's like opening day of trout.
Yeah, but up there it's just bigger water. I mean, you can find some of those like sizes like Elk Creek up here, but I like to fish, some of the bigger rivers up there. And it's just so much water when you hook into a fish. There's nothing like it. You might not catch as many, but it's just awesome up there.
You've been pretty quiet, Tom. We've been talking a lot about steelhead fishing. Isn't that kind of how you and Hunter met? Because you two were actually the first ones out of our group to be introduced to each other. So why don't you tell us what that's all about?
So, back when I was in probably middle school, I was steelhead fishing hard. And
with spin cast, by the way.
Spin cast, yeah. Middle school and high school, I think I caught maybe 3 or 4 steelhead throughout that 6 or 7 years. And I was just about ready to give up on it. And I actually have another buddy named Hunter who was like, you got to come out here and you got to come steelhead fishing with me on a fly rod. I'll teach you how to fly fish. So I said, all right, fine, I'll give it a shot. I'm kind of over this whole steelhead fishing thing, but we'll see how it goes. I went out, my first time fly fishing on steelhead, I think I brought 7 or 8 to my feet. It was unbelievable. I had a great time. And that was my freshman year of college. The year after that is when Hunter came, and he started up the fly fishing club at Edinburgh. I joined the fly fishing club. I didn't know Hunter real well until our spring break trip in March. We went to West Virginia and fished. We stayed in a cabin for a week, and there was a stream that ran right out back behind the cabin. We fished it for a whole week. They fished it. I drank a lot of beer.
I was literally just about to say that.
I was about to say that it's vastly different than my spring breaks, but
that was the first fly fishing club trip right there.
And
we assembled a crew down, and man, I think we went to
you guys catch
a lot. It was just
plenty
enough fish where you could go back to the cabin. Well, first off, we had really cold weather.
Were they native trout, or were we catching?
We fished Harmon's. I think it's called Harmon's Luxury Lodge Cabins. And, they gave us a deal being students and everything. And I think Fly Rod Chronicles runs out of there sometimes, and it's a stock section. There's also, I think, wild fish there, and this water like I haven't ever seen before. The rocks in there were just all like really smooth, big oval, like boulder sized rocks, just all through the river, and it was just loaded up with trout. It was awesome.
Up here where we're fishing, it's mostly shale and it's flat surface. I mean, it gets slippery, but down there, it was unbelievably difficult trying to walk on.
You
they were all
couldn't get
big
across
boulders.
that river.
I mean, I fell several times in the few days that I was down there, and it was challenging water to fish, but we did catch a lot of fish. We drank a lot of beer. We had an amazing
telling me
time
that
down there.
falling in the river was strictly because of how slippery the rocks were?
Yes.
If you fell in, it was all right. I think we had a hot tub up at the cabin, so you just
you guys
run
were
up
really
there.
roughing it, huh?
Oh, it was pretty awesome. It was a great trip.
Big flat screen TV, fireplace. It was nice.
Man, how
Yeah.
do you
I'd
live?
go back there.
How do you do it?
It's tough, roughing it for a week out there, but we managed.
Did you guys eat any of the trout or steelhead you guys caught? Cook them up at camp?
No, I don't think you can
It was all catch and release.
catch and release.
Okay.
Yeah. But Tom was a camp chef. He did cook up the breakfast every morning.
Now that you say that, I do remember seeing a picture of Tom standing there, thumbs up with a
Yep.
spatula in hand. He was looking pretty
He's
tuned in.
he's on the original fly fishing recruitment board. Actually,
Right
he's
in the
still on there.
brochure.
Yep, he's on the brochure. Face of
One hell of a
Edinburgh.
picture.
I'll tell you, we roped in probably over 30 different fly fishermen from the college, and almost all of them commented on that picture of Tommy at spring break.
I'm not sure if I was still drunk from the night before or if I had started drinking that morning, but it was probably about 9 o'clock in the morning when they took this picture of me making pancakes and eggs for breakfast.
We'll have to release that picture on our Instagram page so all you listeners can view it.
No, it is a classic photo. I must say. We'll have to find it.
But that trip right there, that's how me and Hunter really started our friendship. That's when, I knew who he was before that, but that's what really kind of solidified us hanging out, after the fact.
Yeah, and so from there we just started hunting, fishing, and we got a lot of good friendships out of the fly fishing club, and we've done some pretty amazing trips. Just most people haven't done in their lives, we have done in the past few years, just while we were in college, which is pretty crazy.
The last fly fishing trip that we went on, we got a little Airbnb out in New York, and we had, how many people do you think we had on that trip? Like 9 or so?
Like 9 or 10, I think we took.
Yeah,
up
we
there.
had 9 or 10, and some of the people, never caught big brown trout or anything that were on the trip, and I think everybody ended up catching fish that came up there.
Yeah, we went up and fished some rivers up there,
And it was actually, we talked to a bunch of people in that area and called some bait shops and everything, and fishing was slow, reports weren't looking too good, the weather wasn't good, and so we kind of debated on whether we should actually take the trip or not, or wait for another weekend, and we got together and decided, you know what, let's go for it. And it started out a little bit slow, and one of our buddies, Alex, called
Big
us,
Al.
and Big Al, maybe we'll get him on the podcast sometime. He actually he works for the Fish Commission, doesn't he? Or he used to?
yeah, fishing boat down at one of the hatcheries, I believe.
Yeah, so maybe we can get him on here. But anyways, he gave me a phone call and said, "Hey, dude, you catching anything?" I was like, "No, it's pretty slow. No one around me's catching anything. Haven't seen much of anything." And he's like, "Well, you got to come down here." He's like, "I found a run and there's fish in here." So I came up and he put me in a spot and I caught a fish, and I think it was I think we posted it on our page. It was a nice brown trout, probably
Yeah,
about
that was
12
a nice
pounds
one.
or so. And I was like, all right, well, I'll get out of here and I'll let somebody else fish in this run. And one of the girls on the trip, Cassie, she's actually my girlfriend.
Ow!
Yeah, ooh, met her on the trip actually. I didn't know her until that trip, but told her
She told me you elbowed her in the mouth or something the first time you guys ever talked.
You really got to show a girl you like her sometimes.
Hey, we
It's
gotta
been
get
love ever
Cassie
since.
out here.
But
I think she'll out.
yeah,
fish
she
the Luke,
she was standing behind me, and I went to turn and didn't know she was there, and popped her right in the mouth with my elbow, and I started freaking out. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry!" And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "I just elbowed you in the face." She's like, "Yeah, wasn't even that hard." So at that moment, was like, you know what, she's a keeper.
Did you tell
No,
her
I think
that's you need to stay out of your fishing spot? Maybe we weren't sitting so close, I wouldn't have to elbow you.
I think the moment Luke realized, he's like, I need to maybe date this girl, is when Cassie caught one of the biggest brown trout on the trip.
I think that was actually one of the
turning point for you.
One of the
you were
funniest
just like,
points of that trip.
Here we go.
She started the fishing trip and was a little upset at first, and her drifts weren't really coming out right, and her bait was kind of floating up top, and she had a dry fly on, and so I hooked her up with some new bait and everything, and put some weight on. And
do you recall what you were using?
Yeah, we were actually using beads. So
beads and flies.
Huh? Yep.
I think Tyler
beads
had
and flies.
Beads and flies. But
didn't Tyler have some skein up there?
Yeah, Tyler
too?
was throwing live skein out there. But
Okay, I gotta ask, what is skein? Like I said, I don't know anything about fly fishing. So
when steelhead run, obviously they are running, and even kings and browns, all trout, when they run up the streams, it's to spawn, to dump their eggs and milk and reproduce. So steelhead, before they actually release their eggs, they have what's in their stomach called skein, and it's basically undeveloped eggs. It's kind of some pods of
like
premature eggs, yeah, and it's still in in a membrane. So if you're keeping steelhead, the females, you can when you gut them, to clean them and smoke them. Actually, I've never heard of anyone eating steelhead any other way besides smoked, but you can take their skein sacs out, and you can cure them or use fresh skein or do whatever you want, but people have a lot of success with skein.
Mostly, if you're fly fishing, you ain't using skein.
No, fly fishing, that's spin casting.
Spin casting, a lot of spin guys.
Salmon love it, browns love it.
You catch a lot of fish on skein.
But anyways, what a bead is it basically imitates an egg. So I put one of those on for Cassie, and she was drifting, and
She made you bait or hook for it?
Ow.
we'll talk about that when we get her on here.
I had a little more experience in the area. She's more like native trout streams, real small, catching brookies and stuff. So she wasn't really used to the big water. So I kind of gave her a few pointers and everything, and she had a few takes right off the bat, and just kind of missed the hook set on them, or had it on for a second and popped off. But probably after about 20 minutes or so, she hooked into a real big fish, and set the hook on it, and was kind of just holding her rod up. And I was like, "You snagged?" She's like, "Nah, I think so." And all of a sudden, I saw her indicator swimming upstream, and I was like, "I don't think you're snagged." And started fighting the fish and everything. And she's never fought a fish that big before on a fly rod, so I kind of was talking her through it, like, "Hey, let the fish run, stop, like don't reel, hold your rod tip up," and just kind of hee-hawed for 10-15 minutes trying to teach her how to do this. And I'd grab the rod from her hand to get it around a tree or something.
That was
because
crazy.
It started
right
taking
there.
us way down river. So she was running behind
I'd say
me.
a couple hundred yards down. I was on the other side of the river when all this was going down. And
I'm sorry, I missed. What were you guys fishing for this? Like on that trip?
We were fishing for steelhead, Atlantics, kings, browns. They all
Okay,
swim
so you
right
had
in
no
the
idea you could get anything, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're heading 100 yards down.
You're running.
That's crazy.
You could catch a fish anywhere from 3 pounds to 20.
What sort of like current were you in? Like, was it tough to battle with in
pretty
the
swift
current?
water.
So it's a regulated area that we were fishing, and so they release water. So the current depends on how much water they're letting out. And at the time it wasn't too bad, but you still had to be careful. I mean, there were some holes that were maybe over 10 feet deep, so you gotta be careful where you're walking. But after about 15 or 20 minutes messing around trying to get this fish in and talking her through it and everything, she finally got it close enough to me that I could net it. And it was just, we'll post a picture on it, and
giant
it's just
brown, like phenomenal.
just an insane
Hey, I give you
brown trout.
props because you really gave her some good coaching tips, and you pretty much guided for a little bit there. And I was on the other side of the river, and everyone went over on our club. I mean, like Luke was saying, everyone just came in that run. And that's the thing about fishing. Everyone, just something about fly fishing and fishing in general, just the sportsman-like just nature of everything. You just say, caught one, everyone hops out, next person gets in. And, man, you guys were just housing fish on that side. And watching you do your thing over there was just awesome.
And from making a bunch of trips up there, I've got to know some of the people that take trips up there, even from all over the place, that come up not just from my area. But so I've gotten their contact information and everything and talked to them. Hey, how you guys doing this weekend? Anyone fishing in New York? And everyone was saying it was slow, and we were all posting pictures, and there were people watching us just slam fish. But that's how it is sometimes. You got to be at the right place
right
at
on
the right time.
run. Yeah.
And so we were the only ones really on the river catching fish, but we had a blast. Everyone cycled through, and once the last person caught a fish, we'd cycle back through. It was a good time.
Another hell of a trip that was. It was just awesome.
Like you said, I don't have many experiences fishing and stuff, but while we're talking about fishing and like on streams and, crowded streams, everybody's getting out and stuff, where I was fishing with my dad one time. We were opening day of trout down in Spartansburg area, and there's a bunch of, it's a real big Amish country out that way. And we're out fishing. I was with my dad and his buddy and his son, and we're out there fishing, and my dad's the only one catching trout at this point. It was opening day of trout. I don't know if I said that or not, but my dad's the only one catching.
Which opening day of trout is like a national holiday in Pennsylvania. It's ridiculous the amount of people that come out for it, so just throw that out there.
Yeah, it's like shoulder to shoulder. So I look over, and next thing you know, there's this guy, or not guy, little kid, like maybe 4. I mean, he is like at my dad's hip, and my dad pulls this fish out. This little kid looks up at my dad, and he says, this is where I usually fish. my dad's got this fish, so he's the only one catching fish, and my dad says, okay, buddy, you know what? You can have it. This is your spot now. So my dad moved on, and this kid jumps right in and started fishing. I mean, it was just the funniest little thing. Just, this is where I usually fish. Well, what are you doing?
I was going to take a little smoke break.
Frank, are we allowed to smoke in the house?
I guess we're going to have to make an exception here if we want a quick smoke break.
All right, I guess we'll take a smoke break. All right, everybody, one quick smoke break, and we'll get back to it.
All right, so what the smoke break is, we're going to do this periodically. It's not going to be an every episode thing, but we're going to do it from time to time. We're just going to kind of give everybody a rundown of a recipe. Like, we're calling it the smoke break because most of them are going to be like smoking recipes, whether it's deer or fish, whatever it is. So that's why we're giving it the smoke break name. So now that you all know what it is, be ready for that in future episodes. And Luke is going to be the one to give us our smoke break today. So, Luke, why don't you lay it on us?
All right, guys. So, like Frank said, we're not going to be releasing one every podcast. It's just going to be kind of little tips and tricks for you guys along the way. As Tom mentioned in the first podcast about bringing a notepad to our podcast, this is one of those times you're going to want to write this down.
Write it in pen.
Pen, Tom? Yeah.
Absolutely. You're not going to want to erase this.
So we're talking a lot about steelhead and fly fishing, and Hunter actually got me into fly fishing for carp. And, boy, he taught me a best way to eat them carp. So what you're going to want to do, everybody, make sure you're writing it down. You're going to want to get a carp, keep it fresh, live. Sometimes we cook it right on site, right on water edge. And you're going to want to find the nearest piece of pine that you got. And what you're going to want to do is scale that carp and flay it up real nice and everything, and you're going to lay those slabs of carp right on that piece of pine.
Do you put any like butter or garlic?
Oh, absolutely
like that?
Not. No, these carp they're oily and they're
just the way you need them.
Perfectly seasoned. It's like eating bacon. You don't need anything else. It's just the bacon. So
nice.
This carp is already seasoned. So you lay it right down on this piece of pine, and you're gonna smoke it for about, I don't know, maybe about 3 hours or so. And after the 3 hours, it'll be done. And what you're going to want to do is throw the carp in the weeds and then eat the piece of pine, because that's going to taste better than the carp anyways.
Smoke break, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed it. We're, like I said, get used to it. Don't expect it every week, but it's going to happen from time to time. So that's how it is. So we'll just get right back into fly fishing. We're going to pass it over to Tom for a little bit of Alaska talk.
So my freshman year of college, I went up to Alaska and fly fished on the Kenai River. We were up there the last week of July into the first week of August, and we really hit the sockeye salmon run hard. And I honestly couldn't tell you how many fish we caught. It was hundreds of fish we caught in the 9 days we were up there.
So if you were to like go in the woods, would you be able to find a stick to shake at it?
No. You could not shake a stick at the number of fish we caught. It was every cast, if not every cast, every other cast, you were hooking into a sockeye salmon up there on the Kenai River.
Yeah, that's a lot of fish. If I can't shake a stick at it, I know that's a lot of fish.
I'm pretty good at shaking sticks, and that's impressive.
Now, what do you use for them sockeye up there?
So here's the deal. They come out of the ocean and come into the rivers to spawn. And when they're spawning, that's when they change colors. They get that real red and green phase to them, the sockeyes. And they're not interested in eating anything because they're pretty much dying at that point. So they use a technique called flossing.
Snagging is what most people would refer to it as.
The locals call it flossing, so it's flossing.
It's
Snagging
flossing
them in the mouth.
because you are intentionally snagging them in the mouth. And there's definitely an art to it. And these fish, they're on average probably 10 pounds. They get a little bit bigger than that. But most of the fish we were catching were like a big fat steelhead that you'd catch here in northwest Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and you throw that into a 3-mile-an-hour current, and you got yourself a party.
Yeah,
I didn't
especially
realize
if
that there was dentists up in Alaska.
Thank you.
But especially if you floss one in the tail, they will take you into your backing faster than you can blink an eye.
Tom, don't you normally floss your mouth?
Yes, that's the goal.
And
That-
daily, right? Floss daily.
Being a non-resident, to keep the fish, it has to be flossed in the mouth. If it is, I'll say it one time.
Does that
If it is-
prevent cavities or?
If it is snagged anywhere besides the mouth, you're not allowed to keep it being a non-resident.
I'd just tell the game commissioner, when it happens, you're reeling a fish sideways, but I just tell him that he ate it.
No, it's
so
never
good
happened.
that-
Please explain.
I just say he ate it so good it came out his back end, and that's why I'm reeling him in sideways. So I'd try that on the game commission.
I've heard Alaska Game Commission is pretty lenient on game laws. They usually don't enforce them too carefully.
Actually, it's quite the opposite. They'll sit on the mountains with binoculars and watch you. And if you do anything wrong, they'll march their happy little ass right down to you and give you a nice fat fine. So you got to be very cautious.
Is that a PHAT fat?
PHATT?
Oh, 2 T. Wow, that is fat.
It's getting wild. That must be a big fine.
So anyways, the whole flossing technique. What we would do is we'd have about, I'd say, an 8-foot leader. And we were using 80-pound test for our leader because you're fishing in a 3-mile-an-hour current, and sometimes you do accidentally floss them in the tail, and they take off like a bat out of hell, and they're up the stream faster than you can imagine. So you kind of got to horse them back in. So that's why we used the 80-pound. But so from the end of your fly line, about 6 feet down, we put a big old weight that would drop right down to the bottom.
This sounds a lot like snagging.
This sounds
flossing.
like flossing. Like
Thank you, Hunter.
top flossing, baby.
It's flossing.
This is like a 5-star dentist right here. This rig, like, come on now.
So from your weight, and you have about another 2 to 3 feet of 80-pound test, and you got your big old fly. We were using these big pink sockeye flies is what they called them. Probably because you just snagged sockeyes with
They
them.
had about a 3-ounce head on them.
No. All your weight came from the sinker. You didn't need a big 3-ounce head.
You'd want your fly to actually float up a little bit so
just
that the
a,
line
just a hair.
So
that
you
the
don't
line
think
gets
you-
caught in their mouth.
You don't think you had any fish hit that out of aggression? Or do you think you flossed them all?
I'd say about 95% you do floss, but there was some where. So basically, how this tactic works is you're gonna want to cast upstream, let it drift down, and once it gets past you, you set the hook really hard,
Whether there's a fish on or not.
whether or not there's a fish on.
See, that's why you really it leads you to believe it might be snagging.
No, but so how it works out is
I do want to, just before we get any farther, I do want to say this is the legal way to do this in Alaska. Where
absolutely
Yeah, just because we're making fun of it doesn't mean it's illegal. It is 100% legal to do this.
Yeah, this is the
if you floss the teeth in their mouth, not in their tail fin.
starting at the molar, work towards the canine.
Yes. But no. So you cast out, you drift down, and that leader is going to be, running right just a few inches off the bottom, and that's where all the fish are hanging out. And that 2 to 3 foot leader is going to get caught up in the fish's mouth as they're sitting down there on the bottom, opening, closing. And when you set the hook real hard, it's going to, catch right in the side of their mouth. And
How did you learn this technique? Like, because I know we joke with you a little bit, but there seriously is some skill involved here. And is this something you learned online, or did you know somebody who's done this before? Or how did you go, because you didn't just go to Alaska, find this spot, and start catching fish.
Because that's not how we do it here. So I mean,
when we first went to Alaska, it was me, my other buddy Hunter, not the one that's on the podcast with us tonight, and my friend Paul that I've been friends with since I was 4 years old. We all went up together. And when the first day we were there, we spent all day trying to catch these fish. And now they're bright red, so you can clearly see them in the water. And we were just trying to catch them like we would catch steelhead here. And it wasn't working. We were watching everybody else pulling in fish, and we couldn't catch anything. So we went to a bait shop later that day, and they told us this flossing technique. And
the natives were probably all watching you like, look at these stupid ass white people trying to catch these fish.
I'm sure that's exactly what they were thinking, because they were bringing them in by the dozens and we weren't catching crap.
do they recommend like Crest or Oral-B or any Dentine,
Yeah.
Sensodyne?
No.
Yeah, what brand of floss were you using? The 80-pound floss line.
Is it that flat stuff when your teeth are really close together, or are they pretty spaced out on a salmon?
I think salmon teeth are pretty well spaced out. You could probably get away with the round stock floss rather than the flat dentine.
Okay, just for anybody that hasn't been to Alaska, before you go, plenty of round floss. You don't need the dentine flat stuff for the tight teeth.
And
No, we're not actually using floss, though. It's actually just 80-pound fishing line.
I'm glad you cleared that
I was
up.
going to say, so the people who maybe aren't as into steelhead fish or anything, don't get confused. It is fishing line, but we're just making fun of Tom for the technique called flossing. We like to
They're
to
just
joke
upset
around.
because they've never fished Alaska before, and they're just,
Not true. 100% not true. I have fished Alaska more times
Frank's
than you.
fished Alaska, but he's not really piping in too much. It's mostly just Nick and Luke, and they've never fished it, so
Yeah,
they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
I'm not
Let's put it
piping in
that way.
because everyone makes fun of me for apparently flossing in New York and in Erie, which sometimes you foul hook a fish, and as soon as that happens, you know, your buddies are like, oh, you flossed them. Oh, you flossed that fish. I can't help it that, you know, I'm catching fish. And
I've had that where people get a little bitter with you because you are catching fish, because maybe the other people don't know what the hell they're doing and you do, but they'll start egging you on. It's kind of like a joke among fishermen that you're flossing them, and like we were saying earlier, that's not a legal way to catch them around where we are in Pennsylvania, but in Alaska that is the legal technique for catching them.
But they're anybody can snag a fish right in the side. But it honestly does take some skill to be able to snag a hook or snag a fish perfectly right in the side of the mouth. But anyway, before I don't even know where.
So we'll go to here.
You were at the bait store and they told you that everyone was flossing because you weren't catching anything.
Right. So the guys at the bait store, they basically, gave us the rundown of what setup we needed to use. That's when we got our big sockeye rigs and our 80-pound test with our big 1/8-ounce sinker. And from that day on, we were just crushing sockeyes the whole entire week we were down there. And we did keep some, cooked them on the grill. We kept some pink salmon. And if you talk to the locals, they'll tell you they won't even feed them to their dogs because they're that gross.
That's how they got the nickname dog salmon.
But one night we got all hooched up and we decided we were going to cook these pink salmon and eat them on the grill. Yeah, I tell you what, that night they were the best damn fish I ever had. This was after about 9 or 10 beers.
Did you visit the Bush Club that night too, Tom?
No, we did not go to the Alaskan Bush Company.
So
It was 21 and over bar.
I gotta ask. So you're saying you went to the bait shop and they were telling you about this flossing and everything. So is it like a dentist office? Do you get your toothbrush, toothpaste, and your floss? Is it like that or not quite?
No, there's no toothpaste involved, no toothbrush involved. Basically, it's a metaphor, if you will.
There is actually no connection to teeth or dentists in this
The only
method.
connection is...
That's crazy. See, I don't know much about fishing, so it's crazy now that that it doesn't have anything to do with the dentine floss. I totally get it.
The 80-pound fishing line.
I feel like that's a little much. Don't you think?
I've caught sharks in Florida.
80
and
pounds.
I use 80-pound braid. So we're using the same pound tests, and I'm catching 4-foot black tips, and you're catching 30-inch.
We are
salmon.
not the same.
No, here's the deal. So you catch. Have you ever? I'm sure you've caught a steelhead by the tail, haven't
He
you?
was pointing at Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter.
Yeah, they can't see you.
And
We've all
Yeah.
done it.
it's happened.
Especially in New York when you're swinging, there's so many salmon out there. You just
Oh, you're
you
doing
can't
a
help. It just
you're
happens.
doing a 20, 30-yard drift in 3-mile-an-hour current, and it's deep and muddy, and there's hundreds of fish in front of you. It's bound to happen.
For those of you out there that are listening and don't do a lot of steelhead fishing, 3-mile-an-hour current. That's a stiff current. That's a lot of water moving.
She's pretty stiff.
Does the
3
old
mile an hour.
wives' tale go, the same, with a tiger? When you catch him by the tail, if the fish does holler, do you let him go, or how does that go?
I think you let him go.
Nick,
Simple as that.
can you say the whole saying for us in case no one caught that?
What do you mean? That's just what it was.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, baby. That's what we're talking about
I
here.
think everybody.
It's not by the tail. I'm pretty sure it's by the toe. And I don't think fish have toes.
Let's say the old rhyme,
The
because
old
I haven't said it
children's
since I was
book.
about 5
It's
years
eeny, meeny,
old.
miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe.
It was toe. So
If he hollers, let him go.
so with steelhead,
fi-
is it the tail? In fact,
Fish
that you
don't
have
really
to wait?
have toes, so we're gonna go with a tail.
Well, technically, they do walk with their tail, so
Hey, some fish can walk out of water.
Snakehead.
There
Whoa.
you go.
Anyway,
Jinx, you owe me a pop.
Double jinx.
back to why I have 80-pound test.
Yeah, let's hear
If
this.
you hook, okay, so these holes we're fishing.
Tom, can you just tell us why you have 80-pound test?
We're
Yeah.
dying to know.
These holes we're fishing, they're probably 12 feet deep. And the river it's not like these rivers these guys fish back here in Pennsylvania where you can
Tom, you're from Pennsylvania and you fish around here.
Where
You're
you
talking
can-
like you're an Alaskan native.
underhand throw a stone to the other side. These are big rivers with rapids that
This
some of
is
these-
an overhand toss, is what we're talking here. No
Oh,
overhand.
overhand toss with a running start.
How many hops?
3 or
Coming
4.
from a professional college baseball player like Tom, probably no hops, but your average guy probably
Borough
2-3.
baseball, baby. Club baseball.
Check us out on Twitter, Borough Baseball. But so these are big rivers that we're fishing, and if you hook into one of these 10-pound sockeyes in the tail, it is gonna take you down to your backing faster than you can blink an eye. It's gonna be up that river and gone. So the trick is you're gonna want to. They call it a death grip. You're just going to grab your reel as hard as you can and grab about 2 or 3 feet up from your reel and pinch the line to your rod and just pull backwards, and it's just going to pull the tail or the hook right out of the fish's tail. That way, because you're never going to reel that fish in. So you just pull it right out. Fish goes on, none the wiser. You get your hook and sinker back without snapping your line. If you're using a 15-pound test, you're probably going to snap your line every other cast doing that.
So the 80-pound isn't for the normally caught fish; it's for the quote-unquote snagged fish.
The tiger.
The-
It's the tiger fish. Salmon.
Unproperly flossed fish.
Yeah, because I've like we said, we're from Erie, Pennsylvania, and we catch a lot of steelhead, and a lot of times, like we're talking, you need light lines so they don't see it, but a lot of I've caught fish that had 4 or 5 different flies stuck in them, and seriously, when you're picking up fish, be careful you don't get a hook in your hand or something and get infected, but take the hooks out of the fish.
Look out.
Yep, I've gotten grief before because I've snagged fish accidentally, and I still reel them in and try and get them in quick if I can, just so I can get that hook and line off of them, so they're not swimming around with a hook in their back and 5 feet of line. And because steelhead do spawn continuous years, so they're not just coming up there and dying. They're actually gonna spawn and then swim back out to the lake for another year. So if you can get that hook out of them, and it's actually gonna help them out quite a bit.
But another thing about Alaska is when I was up there, it was the most beautiful country I have ever visited. It was unbelievable. The water was crystal blue, and just it was so refreshing. Everything about it was just a phenomenal experience. But when I got back, there was just like, I don't know how to describe it, that the air smelled different from up there in Alaska. It was just a lot less fresh. I mean, Alaska, they call it the last frontier, and I understand that from a personal level now, being there, it's just so clean and everything. And back home in Pennsylvania, that's not exactly the case with all the pollution and everything, and we do tend to see a lot of trash and stuff on the sides of the bank, where up in Alaska, we didn't see that. It was all clean and fresh water. Everything was pristine. But our buddy Hunter here has something to kind of try and counteract that pollution and garbage you see on the sides of the rivers here in Pennsylvania. So Hunter, why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so through our fly fishing college program, I went on this trip across Pennsylvania, 3 weeks camping, fishing every watershed, and me and my business partner, we realized that there's this plastic pollution in the most remote places, polluting these wild brook trout streams. And especially when we go back to Erie, Pennsylvania, and started walking the shorelines of Erie and fishing, really starting to pay attention when we're fishing out on Elk Creek and some of these other tributaries. We just see plastic pollution just polluting all of our waterways.
This doesn't have to do with fishing, but Nick and I were in Ohio last week, and the public land that we were hunting, the one spot we were at was 10,000 acres of public land, and literally everywhere we went, there was just bottles and cans and trash everywhere.
I walked out. Anytime I go public land, even snake hunting, I mean, that's even way off topic here, but I carry out what I can, but I mean, it's crazy how much, it's tough to really...
You can only do so much to help it. I mean, the biggest thing you can do to help is not pollute.
Yeah, pick it up when you can.
And it's it's not just polluting the fish like you were saying. I mean, that's Lake Erie is polluted, and that's our biggest source of drinking water here in Pennsylvania.
That's right. 22 million pounds, I think, each year the Great Lakes receive, and that's just right in our own backyard. So, to go off of that, we realized there's a major problem at hand. We're really seeing this impact, especially on our oceans. And me and my partner, we had this idea to start an environmental cleanup company to combat this problem. And we came up with an idea. We submitted it to a business startup program, and we've been going through the motions of being an entrepreneur, starting a business. And
what's your business called, Hunter?
It's called Fish Gods LLC. Be on the look for us here in the upcoming months. I'd say in the next 3 months we should be going public and launching our website. And the amount of support we've got about our idea and a cleanup company to combat this problem for our freshwater systems has just been incredible. From our university, the business startup program that we went through, and we actually won that. It was out of Erie, Pennsylvania, called Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and we did a business pitch kind of like Shark Tank. We won $5,000. I'm sure you could look it up, check it out online. So we designed this company, we created this company, we're designing products and solutions, and we're unifying members of the outdoor community to get behind this movement and really start cleaning up our waterways.
If that's just like an awesome concept in general, not just for like the waterways, because like I said with Ohio, and it's the same everywhere, that's a concept that everybody can get behind. It's not just fishermen, it's not just people that like to hunt, everyone can get behind something like that.
Yeah, it's everybody in the outdoors. Like, how could you not support cleaning up the beautiful, like the public land? Because I mean, any stream you're on is technically public land, but all of the woods and everything. I mean, there's endless amounts of property that outdoorsmen enjoy, and how could you not get behind cleaning it up?
Does anybody know like the number of hunters or fishermen that there are in Pennsylvania?
Well, I think this is, I thought I saw this number, 750,000.
Which sounds about right.
Is that hunters or fishermen are combined?
That's like purchased hunting licenses.
Okay, because
like don't quote me on that, but I for some reason feel like that number is legit.
But even if we don't even know a number, and you just think how many hunters you know personally, or you see hunters out in Pennsylvania, there's so many hunters and fishermen, and we've heard counter arguments, and I've talked to Hunter about it, like because you're always gonna have critics about, well, why is someone gonna help clean it up? And we're talking to all the hunters and fishermen here. That's a huge population of people that enjoy the outdoors, that want to keep it clean.
It's not even just hunters and fishers. I went to college down in Williamsport, and there was a lot of guys that didn't do anything when it came to hunting and fishing, but just loved hiking. Yeah. And they were the same way. our backpacks were filled with water bottles and candy wrappers by the end of our trips, because I'm a big proponent. I hate seeing litter on this property because like I love public land and enjoying it for what it is, and it pisses me off to see like trash like in a place where I feel like I'm the first person to step foot there.
Yep.
So I always pick up trash when I can.
Once you start looking for it, and you like you said, you think you've been the first person to take step foot in this woods or this mountainside, start looking around and you'll soon see plastic and garbage pollution.
It's sickening.
It's just crazy.
But I mean, that's a huge movement you're talking about here, like with how many people you have following behind you and everything that are supporting you. Like, that's congrats.
Yeah, thanks. So, it's a lot of hard work, and should be launching here in the next few months, and be on the look for that. But start take part now when you're out in the outdoors. Start cleaning up when you see the pollution. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride so far, and it's a lot starting your own business and everything. But we hope to have greater good in this world by creating this company.
Yeah, no, we definitely know what you mean. Like when you say it's a lot of hard work to get a business started, because we've just been getting into the whole Whitecat Outdoors thing, getting all our paperwork done, and it's a lot of work. And I'm sure, with your business, it's a lot more. I don't want to say it's more important or anything than what anybody else does, but it's so much
pretty damn
more
important.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say it.
It's important.
You're talking picking up litter and cleaning the place up. I mean, I remember just when I was younger and I fished with my grandpa for years, and he used to tell me when he was a kid, like my age, they could see the bottom of the lake fishing 70 foot for perch, and that's not a thing anymore. And that's not dirt. It's literally just pollution.
And Lake Erie was almost considered a dead lake at one point because of all the pollution.
Right.
Yeah, it's just so.
And it's not just affecting the wildlife and the animals and the fish. It's affecting everyone who's listening to this podcast right now and everyone who's not. I mean, like we were saying earlier, all of our drinking water and everything comes right out of the lake. And where do you think your trash goes that you throw in the ditch? It's runoff. All watersheds lead to the lake or to the ocean or something somehow. So even if no one's even been there before, the waterways and just the way the earth works could carry trash to places where someone has never been.
Well, the worst part about it is microplastics and how these plastics are breaking down. And there's a lot of research going into that right now. It's really creating the next wave of jobs in the scientific community. But yeah, the water you drink, it's not really being treated for these microplastics. I think it's like 2 out of every 3 fish eat these microplastics. It's somewhere in the food chain because it mimics their food source from smaller fish to bigger fish. And that's in the food you eat and the water you're drinking. And who knows what the health effects are going to be with microplastics in your system. And I mean, plastics have only been around for, so long when the technology got invented. I mean, it's really changed our way of living. But if we could start going to like single-use plastic,
I actually noticed a local grocery store around where we're from. It's called Wegmans. They're actually going to no plastic bags.
Right.
They're only going to be using reusable
BYOB,
bags.
bring your own bags.
Bring your own bags, baby.
And I know a lot of restaurants are going what they call topless. When you give them a drink, there is no straw.
Hell yeah, brother.
There is no straw or lid because you don't need it. And even the places that do, like Wegmans they have no plastic straws. They're all paper straws. So
it's all about eliminating this single-use plastic. I mean, plastic's good. I couldn't imagine some of the things that we use every day. We use it for, but it doesn't mean you have to throw it away after using it once. Like you can wash it. I mean, it pretty much stays in the environment for hundreds of years.
Single-use
plastic even styrofoam. Literally, it's like indefinitely. They don't know how long it takes to break down. It's like it's just crazy to just leave this stuff out there. So it's like I said, I can't. Fathom how cool it is that like you're starting this business to help clean up the environment and make it easy for people to do it.
Right. I just want to, for all of us, make sure like whenever I'm like, 70, 80 years old and my kids and the kids before, after that have, a place they can go fish and hunt and hike and camp. It's just as wild as I've seen it. And we're seeing, like our environment, it's so impacted from years and years of human use. And it's Alaska right now. I mean, it's the last frontier, but we're seeing a lot of impacts everywhere. And we might
with
not
you
have
saying that, in our moose camp this year, because I work for Alaska Lead Outfitters. The moose camp that we had on the Mulchatna River, we got up there, and it was, it's on the side of a river. It's 150 miles from anything, and the camp that we got to, it used to be an old campsite that an outfitter used before us, and it was disgusting. Like, there was just trash everywhere. There was old Mountain House bags, there was plastic cups, there was an old stove there. It's just there, even like we were saying, even when you think you're the first person to ever set foot on this ground, you can still find pollution and trash and signs of other people being there.
Yeah, it's truly disgusting, really. I mean, people need to start cleaning up after themselves.
And right now is going to be the best time, because if we don't change anything, it's just going to get worse and harder to clean it up. So, because like you said, it's been years and years of neglect that the earth has had, and the sooner we take action to it, the sooner we can help this problem.
And I think it's so important. And most outdoorsmen, just practice conservation and just really take care of our resources and the places that we love to go and use each and every day, hunt, fish, hike, camp, etc. We just want that to be around for as long as it can be. We want it to stay as wild as it can be. And we have to live our everyday lives, but we also have to protect the woods and the earth that we go and roam and hunt and fish every day.
And we get that, there is going to be some one-use plastic items that sometimes are going to be a almost near necessity in life. Plastic water bottles, and you can use reusable ones, and little plastic Ziploc bags for lunch and everything. Like, there's still going to be a lot of items.
They make reusable Ziplocs now.
That's what I'm saying. Either reuse your Ziploc bags or get a reusable water bottle, or at the very least, if you got to use a one-use product, try and recycle it. That's probably your best bet with it, rather than throwing it in the trash. If you can at least do that, that helps to some degree.
I mean, for the older listeners out there, they might think this is a bunch of hoopla and everything, but I mean, the facts are there. I mean, we've been on this earth for how long, and I mean, every day you have to imagine we're putting some kind of impact in there. Maybe it's not plastic pollution, but it's overkilling a certain amount of moose or something. We just have to make sure that we're really taking value in the animals that we take each and every day, and we use those resources.
Just look at the endangered species list. I mean, since we've been around, I mean, that list has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, so
and it fluctuates too. I mean, there was a time when whitetail were as populated as whitetail are in Pennsylvania now. There was a time when they were like almost wiped out. Most of the whitetail that are in Pennsylvania are actually an ancestor from the Midwest.
That's crazy.
That's like the elk down by Benezet in Elk County. Actually, my girlfriend's from that area, and there used to not be any elk in that area, and they imported them, and they got herds now in central, southern, eastern PA that have thousands of elk. So, I mean, the conservationists are doing what they can to keep the natural animals in the areas and everything, but we got to do our part to keep it as natural as possible. So
like Hunter said, keep it as wild as possible. I really like that.
That's
the way I really like that. Keep it wild.
I mean, we all, just when you take a life of an animal, I mean, we're using that meat to, feed our families, feed ourselves, and it's just like crazy fish, elk, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, that's still a wild animal, and we should just really respect it for what it is.
I mean, that's their home basically that you're polluting. So I mean, even though you're taking them for, I mean, it's conservation. You can't not harvest any animals or it would become overpopulated. But you got to respect their woods and share it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want somebody coming into your house and throwing garbage on the floor and everything. And if you think about it, that's like you said, Nick. That's all the animals.
I just hate going just like when I'm out in the woods or on the river. I just want to be out there, just be out in the wild.
That's your getaway.
I hate seeing just like traces of just like human contact. And obviously we're not going to get that in like really populated areas like we hunt and fish here. But I just hate this. I couldn't imagine doing that, going out like west or going to Alaska or something, and you just like see all these traces. It would just be crazy.
Yeah, like you were saying, up in Alaska or out west, anywhere you go, there's always that trace of somebody, and whether that trace is, just footprints, and it's usually garbage, which is really unfortunate. And I really admire you that you're trying to do something to combat that. It's really a great thing you got going on.
Thanks, I really appreciate it, and I think it's a good start to something good.
Because there's some other companies out there that are also focused on cleaning up out there and everything, and it's awesome. They're all doing great work and everything, but where Hunter found that there was a void that needed to be filled was in our area. There's not really many people focusing on the fresh waterways and the rivers and lakes and everything, like salt water you see on the social media and everything, people doing what they can with that and everywhere else. But I mean, the Great Lakes are just as important as anything else. It's still the life of animals.
Largest freshwater body system right here in our backyard. It's just crazy. I kind of often forget about like how like important the Great Lakes are. I don't know if because Lake Erie's kind of like, it's kind of like the lesser of the Great Lakes.
I was thinking that earlier, honestly, when you were like talking about how, like with steelhead fishing, you were like, honestly, I don't really like to fish around here that much anymore. I like to, go up to New York and fish different streams. It's like you honestly like forget what's right in your backyard. You don't even think about it because it's there all the time.
It's massive. Like you look at it, it's like an ocean. Like
you can't see the other side.
You cannot see.
That's literally
for miles.
You can't see the other side.
You brought some buddies from Williamsport, Nick, didn't you, to the peninsula right in our backyard? And what
yeah, I
happened
did.
there?
So like I said, I went to school in Williamsport. I brought two buddies home. Luke took us fishing on his boat, but we went out to the beach, and my buddy Sam, he looks at me and he's like, "That's all fresh water." Like he could not believe. He's from Jersey, so I mean, he'd never seen Great Lakes.
Nick was lying to him. He thought it was an ocean.
Couldn't like fathom the idea of that it was all fresh water, and I think because we live here, I agree. I think we take it for granted. Exactly. We take it for granted.
We really shouldn't.
And if you think, like we were saying, the fresh drinking water, the sport that there is out there, the food that it provides. Also, take a look at Niagara Falls. That's a huge tourist attraction that provides electricity.
Well, even Presque Isle right here.
Presque Isle is a huge tourist attraction. It's beautiful. There's so many things that the Great Lakes provide that is being corrupted just by pollution.
It's seen a lot of environmental impacts for sure, and I think everyone in this area do. We just kind of take it for granted, and we should. I mean, freshwater systems, like we're actually really fortunate to have the largest freshwater systems right here in our backyard. Anywhere around the world, I mean, it's the largest in the world,
and it is getting better. People are starting to take action, but there's regulations now with, the factories that used to be on all the lake shores and everything.
Didn't the Erie Coke plant just get shut down?
Erie Coke plant just got shut down.
They've been polluting the heck out of Erie.
It was about time. I'm just going to say it because they just totally disregarded all of the fines and warnings.
No, they didn't disregard them. They actually knew that they were not being conservation, or how would you say that? Like
they weren't being as green as they should be.
Not as they should be, as legally allowed to.
Yeah, so, legally they weren't allowed to.
What they would do instead of fixing and investing in what they would have to do to become legal, they would set aside money to budget
to pay for the fines
that they knew were coming.
Worse.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. For this has happened for years. Like they've been taken to court.
There's fish in the lake. If you look, people put reports every year, and you are only supposed to eat so many fish out of the lake per month, because of the mercury that's in the lake, and there's size regulations, different species.
It's like 1 or 2 meals per month, which is
ridiculous because of neglect to the lake. So just again, Hunter, with Fish Gods, props.
Yeah, thank you. And be on the look for that, and I hope it really takes off to be something that really just makes this world a better place. And we're going to start right here in our own backyard and really unify the community and everyone around us.
Yeah, honestly, I really hope it expands to the whole country and you become a nationwide thing. I don't want it to just be in our backyard. I hope that goes everywhere.
I hope it goes the whole world.
Me too. So, we got a lot of work ahead, a lot of hurdles to cross here, but thanks for having me on the podcast, and at least get to talk about it.
When you said us, you talked about your partner. Who is your partner?
Yeah, my partner.
Who did you get this started with?
Tyler Wattenbaugh. Me and him created the fly fishing club together our freshman year. We just became friends actually over the sport of fly fishing. We both, hey, you like to steelhead fish? Yeah, me too. So we started fishing. Hey, we should start this club up together. From there, that kind of started like our business entrepreneurial mindset. And we've created podcasts together. I mean, running the fly fishing club really showed me I had a niche for business. I really enjoyed it. And so we had this idea after we actually both got accepted on the same internship with that Trout Unlimited, traveling and fishing across Pennsylvania, which was just incredible. I mean, I'm from Pennsylvania, and I've never seen eastern Pennsylvania, especially up north. We took Route 6 the whole way across, and just the fishing and the scenery, and just it's almost like a different state over there. So if you're from PA, you should really just think about taking a couple weeks off and doing that trip. Route 6 will take you the whole way across to stay at state parks, and it was incredible. But from there on out, we realized, a problem, and we should start a business, and we submitted it to the Ben Franklin Tech Accelerator program, got accepted, and pretty much got a master's course in business in 10 weeks, and we ended up winning, and the university backed us, helped us create a website, logos, everything from start to finish, and we're really moving forward, so looking forward to the future.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, it's, like I said, we just started with Whitecat. I mean, the idea of Whitecat Outdoors came out in 2015, and we covered that in the first podcast.
I listened to that podcast, and that really made me think of my business. It's crazy. I mean, you guys are entrepreneurs as well, creating Whitecat and just saying, like, taking an idea, saying it out loud, and then saying, like, all right, let's do this thing, and, filing the proper paperwork with the state, and just, like, now we really have something going. And it's literally just you say some words, and it turns into a business, which is crazy.
It's not easy to make that happen. You went through this. You were a college student. You were working at the time. You were starting a business. I mean, you were...
Yeah, it's just crazy time of my life. I actually had to leave my internship. Like, I was like a month and a half in. Second time around, I do drone flying. I worked on the second largest landfill in the United States, and talk about seeing how much waste we create every day. We're talking bringing 300 train cars every day and full of trash from some of the eastern states, as well as from the state that I was working in. Dump trucks full, just crazy, gigantic landfill. I think it's like 450 acres or something. Yeah, it's second largest in the world. So I was working out there, fly drones. I do drone analytics, and I was the drone operator, doing that kind of stuff. And I had to leave early, and I just wanted to follow my dreams, start my own business, and hopefully it leads me to many more. And it was definitely worth it. But I mean, it was tough, man, especially in college.
We all have
like
faith that it will.
It's tough in college when you have class, like 4 or 5 classes, homework. You got to take some time off to go hunt and fishing.
Just your like, social life to keep it intact and keeping your sanity is tough.
And we also run the fly club, so it's just like we're busy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, you have all this stuff going on, with your business, and we feel it too with us. And I mean, me and Nick are out of college, but Luke and Tom are still in. So me and Nick are planning things, and we got to do this, this, and this, and then we realize, oh wait, we have to plan around Luke and Tom going to school and stuff. So
right,
I mean,
right.
I'm sure you dealt with a lot of that with you and your partner, and it's just something else going on in your life that makes it more difficult. And it's awesome that you're just still powering through.
I broke my arm too. It's just like, life throws some crazy things at me.
That one may have been avoidable.
Yeah.
I'm retired from arm wrestling.
You basically, I mean,
you are hanging the gloves up, Hunter.
Oh, they're hung up for good.
I just introduced you into arm wrestling a couple months
Luke
ago.
really got me. And this summer, when I was running around doing all this stuff, and I tell you, it was some of the hardest days of my life so far, my young life, just really pushing me to do things that made me feel uncomfortable and really just trying new things, creating this business. I had no idea what I was talking about. I was bullshitting these business
like starting
coaches.
a business. I mean, my grandfather ran his own business, and so was my dad. But like, they've always been, I don't know, like they never talked about like what it takes to start a business, and they literally like I mean, Frank, your dad also runs his own business, and I don't know if yours is the same way, but my dad doesn't really talk about what it takes. I understand it's not a 40-hour week, but
it's like, probably more sometimes.
Oh no! What I'm getting at is
like
my dad doesn't do a 9 to 5. It's some days he's been at the office till midnight doing sales tax. Like he just
you have the crazy.
You do what you gotta do.
It's the same thing with my dad. He's sitting here like no matter what time of night his phone rings, he's gonna answer. He's always got clients calling him, and you're running a business. You literally always have to be available.
It's the biggest side hustle you ever do in your life. You put that 9 to 5 in, whether it's school or work, and then you're working in the mornings, you're working in the afternoons, you're working until 2, 3 a.m. But wait till finals roll around in college, boys. I'm telling you, once those last month of school, it's tough to just all right, I got to put everything aside and focus on the books. So really, it's a big challenge.
It's crazy because when we started Whitecat, we actually, me, Tom, and Frank, we went up to the cabin we sat down, we're like, listen, we've been teasing with this idea of Whitecat, and it's just kind of been this fun thing for a couple of years now. Let's do something with this. What do you want to do with it? So we talked about it, decided let's make it official, and it's crazy how much time it really does take. I didn't realize it, but I enjoy every bit of it. Literally, I work from 7 to 3:30, and on my breaks and on my lunch, I'm doing stuff for Whitecat, and then when I get home, I'm back on the computer. I do all of our editing for audio purposes.
Yeah, me and Nick, I work 4 to noon, so I have a full-time job too, and I am always texting Nick during the day. Whenever I'm on a break, my lunch break, I call him. I'm like, hey, I just found this out.
Or I had this crazy idea.
Exactly. Yeah, we text each other all the time.
It's 24/7.
It's literally crazy. 3 a.m. Frank's texting me. He's like, dude, I got this thing. I got to talk to you about this right now. And it's not even just
Tyler texts me like that all the time.
When you're starting a business like this, and like I said, we're very fresh on this, but it's just a constant thing. It's always on my brain.
And when the ideas come, you
crazy.
just you call the people that you're involved with. You have that idea. You call them. You're excited about it. You just call them right away.
It's a grind, and you literally I'm just so passionate about it. Every ounce of time I have outside of the job I have to work, I'm thinking about.
Well, even when you're working,
exactly. You're
consumes your mind.
You're thinking about Whitecat all the time.
It makes but you have to learn. I learned to when I'm in class, I have to shut that off, or I have to shut this off. I have
a really hard time doing that because my brain is. Frank texts me. But I'll get a text from Frank. He's like, "Do you even work during the day?" Because I'm constantly blowing up Frank's phone all day, dude. I'm thinking different things. I'm like, "Hey, dude, what about this? What about this?" And we've been fortunate enough. All of our graphic design has been done by my dad. It's all hand drawn, which amazing. Is it's been insane. I really love that. He's super talented. We don't go through a professional graphic designer. My dad does all of our graphics, which I love.
I think
sick.
it's so. I give you guys props for actually deciding to do this, because a lot of people have these $1 million ideas, or we should do these great things. If nothing comes out of it, unifies.
Yeah, they talk about them over beers, and after a few beers, and the next morning the idea is totally forgotten about.
I know what it's like to go through something like this, and you're really putting yourself out there socially. And what I really liked about you guys is you guys keep it within the family. Your dad works on everything, but from starting my own business, seeing you guys do, it's really, I don't know about you, but it gave me appreciation for small business and for this, the entrepreneurs that are out there hustling every day. So support your small businesses when you can, and really give light to these guys if you can. Give them a shout out, Whitecat Outdoors, on their social media platforms if you can, because any little bit helps. And with social media and internet today, I read it's one of the best times to be an entrepreneur and start something up. With your guys' the audience's help, you can be somewhere great in 6 months to a year. You have to crawl before you walk, and walk before you run. But you guys could help accelerate that. So shout out to them, and hopefully you guys take that advice.
Yeah, and we've been working on that, trying to get our name out there and everything. And like you guys were saying, with how you put your heart and soul into it, and at work you're thinking about it. I'm going to college at Edinburgh, like they were saying earlier, and I also work. So I wake up, I go to work, go to school, go to work, and I actually planned my schedule so that I had time to do this company. I took online classes because what am I doing at 11 at night? Well, usually I'm sleeping, so I'm sacrificing some of that time to get my college classes in, and sacrificing sleep and making cuts in my life to make this happen, because I do believe it can be something great. So
right.
I totally agree with you. I mean, even like before we made it like an official business and everything, I went, like I said, down in Williamsport. I made my schedule so I only had to go to class 4 days a week. I had class from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday. I took night classes. I had an hour and a half break throughout the day, and that was it. I was straight in class for 3.5 years. I mean, not to brag, but I graduated a semester early, got out of it.
Brainiac.
And
You're so cool, Nick.
You can
When you
literally
say not to brag, I think it means
during
you're
bow
bragging.
season, I was, as soon as class was over, 10 o'clock at night on Thursday, I was heading to camp. I was getting out in the woods, trying to get it done. While I was in college, actually, I had my best success in the woods when I was in college because I had that feeling of I got to get it done now. And I was killing the first buck that came in, but I just had this.
Just got lucky enough that
I
it
got
was the
very
biggest
lucky.
buck every time.
Dude, every time for 3 years in a row, the first buck that I encountered was my next biggest buck, and you can't turn down your best buck. It's just not something you do. And while I was in college, it just worked out. So
I
like you said,
that's
it's
crazy.
crazy. Like once you put your mind to something, and that it's a passion, it's a dream, and we couldn't stand to just like keep it as an idea anymore. We had to make it legit. We had to share it with people, and I'm just grateful that like I work with guys that we're just as passionate about it as we are, and I'm sure you feel
guys
the
are
same
awesome,
thing. And I'm sure you
guys
feel the
are
same thing with
hilarious.
Fish Gods.
Oh yeah, it's just a crazy concept, honestly. So, like I said, the biggest thing I came out of is like, anything you put your mind to, you can do. As long as you have a passion for it, you're dedicated to it, and you put your heart and soul to it, it will happen. It's just time. Time takes
Time. Right now, like I mean, we're doing it because we love it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We're passionate about it. It's not about, obviously we're not making any money doing this. We're actually losing money as we speak.
It's
not why
always a downward investment.
Yeah, it's
for a
not
long
it's not
time.
why we're here. We're literally we just enjoyed it, and we just enjoy talking about the outdoors. Like that was my biggest idea when we decided to do the podcast. I'm sitting there like, we talk about hunting, fishing, trapping constantly. I'm like, why aren't we just recording it? Like,
Awesome idea.
it's
Whitecat Outdoors. I mean, you can't get a better podcast than this right
The
here. Please share
Whitecat.
this with your friends. The Whitecat Outdoors.
It's just it was too late, and that's another thing. Like a driving factor for why we started the podcast is like all of the hunting podcasts and outdoor podcasts are so like a niche thing where it's always fishing or it's always hunting, and there's not one out there that just covers the outdoors. And most of us in this room, we don't just hunt, we don't just fish. We like to be outdoors all times of the year, and there was a hole in podcasts, right? We're like, I'm sorry, when it's spring gobbler, I don't really care about buck hunting. I want to go out there and
we
kill
don't wanna-
gobblers.
We don't want to hear about no big old 11 buck tine walking through the pines.
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about killing gobblers, smoking swamp turkeys,
Under
and
chickens.
you go out out in June, like, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about turkeys anymore. I'm out catching rattlesnakes. I'm going to go out there and do that.
Which is badass, by the way. You boys really impressed me with that rattlesnake hunting this year.
Dude, there's going to be a podcast for sure specifically for rattlesnake hunting, and you should definitely come with us this year.
I hope
so
to come
fun.
this year.
It's wild. Once
No,
you
I
get
do
healed up
hate
over
snakes, but I'm coming.
Our
this year.
one buddy, real good friend of mine, I've known him my whole life, Jared Larson.
there, at Let Fly on Instagram.
Yes, check him out. Great guy.
I think there's
But-
3 Ys.
Who knows how many whys? I've been asking why my whole life. But
Yeah. Jeez.
anyway,
Hey, boy, I think the rut must be heating up. Did you guys hear that buck snort? I think it came from my right, maybe.
That was Tom. We're just going to call that out.
anyway. So, but Jared was the same way. He was deathly afraid of snakes, and we talked to him. We're like, dude, just come out, watch us. Do
It's
our
not what
thing
you
a little
think.
bit.
That's the biggest thing. I think
Yeah.
rattlesnakes get a huge misconception on what they are. They are the
Yeah.
most docile animals I've ever handled myself.
And
They
we
literally-
won't get too far into it right now, but like you were saying, like you really want to get out there, but you're afraid of snakes. And our one buddy was like, never ever touch snakes, and
Hate them suckers.
he started hanging out. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna do it, and
Basically,
he had a blast.
You
doing
drink a snake bite the night before and you're clear. It's a proven fact. I don't want to get into it because that's a whole podcast on its own. So, snake bites.
I'm looking forward to the rattlesnake podcast coming up. Also, I would like to, I hope you guys do like an Alaskan feature on Frank's.
That's funny you say that because 2 weeks is
Yeah, you better
Harrisburg?
let them know.
Yeah.
Let them know.
California.
2 weeks.
Look out.
But the Harrisburg show, my dad and I are running a booth down there for Alaska Elite Outfitters.
Book a hunt.
Yeah, if you feel like it, if you got
If you
a
wanna
few extra
smack
grand laying
listen,
around.
if you want to smack a big old moose, hunt of your lifetime.
It's over a 50% chance.
yeah, I'm
That
saying
was just
I'm
last
saying
year.
70%.
coin flip.
Yeah, better than most things in your. You have a better chance of shooting a moose with Frank than you do anywhere else in the world.
I mean, if you think about everything in life, is a 50-50 chance. It's either it happens or it doesn't.
Like
We're
you
talking
win the lottery,
70,
that's- you either win the
30.
lottery or you don't. 50-50.
So yeah, but anyway, like I was saying, we're gonna be at the Harrisburg show, and Nick, I'm sure Tom's gonna be down there.
Oh, absolutely. You bet your bottom dollar I'll be there.
Tom's got his bottom dollar out. So we're gonna
There's
probably
only
do
a couple dollars on top of that, but
there's
the
very
bottom one
few
is on
dollars.
being in Harrisburg.
So, we're all going to do a podcast. My dad's going to be on it. Hopefully. I haven't talked to him about it yet, but I'll make him do
well,
it.
he's in.
He's
in.
I
for
know.
sure in.
If I know Frank's dad like as good as I think I do, he's
I
way
imagine
in.
he's probably a pretty good outdoorsman. See,
probably the best outdoors.
He's got
Frank.
20
Yeah.
plus years of experience
Yeah.
on the Alaskan frontier.
Yeah. I'm not even joking. Like, I've met a lot of people in my life, and I'm sure Nick and Tom have met a lot of outdoorsmen in their life.
A few.
My dad is hands down the smartest outdoorsman I've ever met in all aspects of it. Everything I know pretty much has been taught to me by him. Like he's incredible.
We're actually recording in Frank's house and his dad's house. So in the room we're recording in, there's just moose. There's
Go around the
moose-
room. Yeah, tell them what
there's
we've got
moose on the
surrounding by
mall-
us.
or on the wall. There's a black bear. Fisher, rattlesnakes, caribou, whitetail. There's
There's an elk.
There's a muskie.
There's even a
elk.
walrus on the wall.
There's literally
There is a
walrus
walrus.
stuff.
Yeah, there's walrus tusk
And a whale tooth.
A whale tooth.
A caribou up there.
He has, and most of this stuff in here. The whale tooth, obviously not. But
He wrestled it with his
the
bare
rest
hands.
of the stuff in here is harvested from Frank's dad. Whether it's fishing, trapping, hunting, like everything in here. He's just all around. If we need something about the outdoors, Frank's dad's
Hey,
got
we
the
can't give
answer.
all the credit to Frank's dad though, because we got 2 stud bucks sitting over on the bar here.
They look all right over there, and
And
that one right
I
there,
was told
that
Frank-
Pope and Young one right there, that one's
We have a
mine too.
2.5-year-old PA whitetail over 140. That's 2.5-year-old buck. Obviously on the podcast you can't see it, but when we got the age back on that, I was it wasn't surprising, but at the same
I was
time,
surprised.
but
That's a stellar buck right there.
Oh,
man.
absolutely.
You're talking
Even your pistol buck this year, like
Actually,
Yeah, but-
Tom's got a
but-
good point here. We're talking buck stories.
Before we get
There's
on to the
literally-
next buck story,
There is one buck story that needs to be talked about while Hunter's sitting in the room with us, and that is how Hunter won the first annual buck pool for Whitecat
I
Outdoors.
did. It's a crazy story.
before we get to literally 2
Before?
seconds before that,
Let's hear it, Frank.
I'm just
1,
going to say,
2.
like we were saying before, we're going to be at the Harrisburg show. So come visit us at the booth, Alaska Elite Outfitters, and me, Nick, Tom, and hopefully Dad, for sure Dad, are going to do a podcast breakdown of how Dad got into Alaska, how he got me into Alaska, all the guiding stories that we have. It's going to be a good time. Look it up. It'll be probably in a couple weeks, so keep an eye out for it. But now that I got the shout-out out,
That was way more than 2 seconds.
dude,
I'm
that's
really
called
looking forward to that,
hyperbole.
too.
Hyperbole.
I will
We got
be tuning
metaphors,
into that
hyperboles, everything.
Anyway, back to Hunter with his winning
first
of the
annual.
first annual Whitecat Outdoors buck pool.
Yeah, well-
Hunter, take us away, buddy.
All right, so I'm over the Soboleskis this summer, and they go, "Hey, we're doing this buck pool this year. A bunch of guys. You want in? It's like a couple bucks." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And it's like the first day of school's coming around. I run into Tom. He's like, "Hey, you still want to do that buck pool?" I'm like, "Yeah, here, I got the money right here. I'll just give it to you." Thinking, I think I'm in my 3rd year of college. I've been hunting this property for 2 years now.
And I'm sure with you being in school, you're like, I'm probably not even going to have a whole lot of time to even hunt.
Exactly. We haven't really got the property down yet, but I was feeling good this year. Me and my roommate, we've been hunting it. We got some trail cams out. We started patterning deer. I knew there was good bucks because the neighboring property, the guy, I'm friends with him, he puts in soybean plot. He has a ton of deer come out. He shows me the sheds he finds, and I've trail cammed some nice studs. But, I was like, all right, I'm not going to have a lot of time to hunt, but what the heck, let's try it.
And I think at this point there was a little over 25 other people already signed up for this buck pull.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just give a quick breakdown on what our buck pull is. We do 2 separate buck pulls. You have the standard buck pull. You put $10 in, and the biggest buck wins the money. There's
points plus width is our criteria.
Yeah, points plus the spread. And then we also do a lottery, and basically you put in your money, we draw out of a hat, and whoever gets the first buck, if you drew their name for the lottery, you win the money. But Hunter here won the standard buck pool with the biggest buck turned in the first annual Whitecat.
Yeah, I think it was. So it's mid-October. I've went out once before this. Passed on a small. That was a small. It was a really nice basket rack buck. And my roommate, where he usually hunts, he doesn't see too many buck, and I was like, this would be a perfect buck, Turns out next night he shoots it. Awesome experience, and so pumped up for him. And then I finally sneak out within finals is approaching. We have a lot of things going on. It's like midterms coming up, and then finals, and you have just these big projects. My one class was for soils was this huge final project. I was working on that in mid of October. So I snuck out, finally got in the stand, and as soon as it breaks day, I'm hunting these hardwoods, and I can see this buck coming right to the setup, and he comes in. And I draw back as he's behind this big oak, and I get ready. He steps out, perfect broadside, and he steps towards me. And I stop him, and I took that quartering two shot.
Do the classic, meh, to stop him?
I was shaking pretty bad. I had buck fever, so I went, meh.
A little bit of quiver in the voice.
If you're not shaking, you shouldn't be in the woods. I'm telling you, I've videotaped Tom before. And we've had 4 points, that's not even legal in Pennsylvania. And Tom is shaking like crazy with this buck.
Yeah, he literally can't control himself. If there is a heartbeat out there, Tom, he can't control himself.
Seeing this buck come across the hardwoods, I'm shaking as he's 80 yards out. Like, I knew I was in trouble. Like, the fever set in. Yeah, and he stepped, but he gave me that quarter and 2 shot. Perfect quarter and 2 shot. And a lot of hunters think that's really risky. It's a tough shot. And
if you practice enough and you're confident.
Right. Yeah, if you trust your abilities with your bow, there's not very many shots that aren't something you should never take, but I'm sure you shoot your bow plenty. I've
been shooting the same bow since senior year of high school.
So obviously you know your bow pretty well.
I know this bow well.
You're not rocking that diamond anymore?
No, actually I'm shooting the Matthews. I think it's Matthews Monster. And
I love the Monster Series Matthews.
It's great. I think it's the first Monster Series or second. It's a great bow. I probably would never need to buy a new bow the rest of my life. But so I know this bow in and out. I've been practicing. Me and my roommate went to the Potter County Bow Hunters Festival. We probably shot 500 arrows out there. I was feeling like I could take this shot. He's only 15 yards, perfect. And I stopped him. I took the shot, and where he went and crashed up, I heard him crash. He only went, no kidding, 10, 15 yards.
Freaking smoked him.
Smoked them.
This was all self-filmed, wasn't it, too, buddy?
Yeah, so I'm in pretty...
Actually, that's first I've heard that you self-filmed for this.
I didn't know that either.
I did. I'll show you the video after this podcast.
Would you care if we posted the video?
You could post the video, yeah.
We'll leak it.
Link the video. I'm actually going to edit the whole hunt series here. Once
I'm
I get a
excited
little
for
bit
that.
time.
I've only got one buck self-filmed. The other one was, actually the 140 that Frank killed was self-filmed. And my buck that I killed at the Shars camp, which I'm sure we'll have a Shar on the podcast eventually. I killed a buck there that was self-filmed. Not your standard hunt, but it got a buck. It worked out
to say the least.
It's something about
that's so
filming,
cool that you
just
self-film.
awesome.
It adds a whole new aspect.
Yeah, I was really into it.
It's a whole new level of difficulty too. It's one more thing that you have to consider and worry about when you have that camera right there. You're like, the buck's coming in. You're like, okay, he's coming to my lane. I got to stop him just right. I'm drawing back, and then you're thinking in the back of your head.
I did a little hack this year. So for the
you
longest time,
you about to leak a little thing?
Yeah, here's a little.
Stop right there.
Write it in pen.
Thank you. Write it in pen now.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a new segment here, and this one was actually suggested by another one of our friends.
Shout her out
Her
because
name
she
is
deserves it.
Shaylee Dillon, great gal. but she suggested that we do this. Luke did it earlier with the carp recipe, and we did it a couple times in the first episode, the write it in pen, and we're just going to have to make it, just like the smoke break. It's not going to be a weekly thing, but we're going to do it often.
Hunter,
write it in pen.
Tell us, you right now, self-filming, that one tip that you would write in pen.
Okay, so for the longest time, I was big into the self-filming. Trying to film my hunts, I was filming fishing, and I got a camcorder, and then I ended up going to a DSLR, and I mean, it adds a whole level of difficulty to your hunt. Better video quality, but so the trick is, I decided I was going to sell my camera after doing some investigation into the new iPhone and the capabilities that it had with its camera, especially with the wide angle lens. So I ended up selling all my camera stuff. I ended up getting the new iPhone, and I was like, I'm just going to film
That's the one with 3 cameras?
3 cameras, yeah.
That's wicked.
And I was like, I'm going to film
That is
everything on my
2
iPhone.
more than the average iPhone.
And you can
my
actually
iPhone
get
actually has 2, Nick. So
you
that's
can get
only one.
great
That's
video
one more.
quality.
Duh.
Especially with that third camera. Great video quality out of especially the newer iPhones. And I decided I'm just going to film solely with the iPhone. And from there on out, I sold my camera. I bought a mount for my bow.
I was just about to ask that, how you're filming with your cell phone.
And it works almost as a gimbal. It keeps everything stable, steady. You can get the cinematic shots. And
you say it's mounted to your bow?
Yeah, right to the quiver.
You said gimbal. The only gimbal I know is from the movie Elf. I don't know what gimbal is. What?
Isn't that the thing that's inside the turkeys that you put in the stuffing?
It's just it's for filming. It stabilizes your camera. It's something awesome to get for the iPhone, but it's so stable on the bow quiver. I mean, there's no shaking really unless you have the buck fever, but you can really get good cinematic shots and everything.
So is it a specific quiver that has this attachment, or is it pretty universal?
All I did was, this was crazy. I ordered it from Amazon, and it came the night before I decided to go out hunting that morning.
It was meant to be.
It sounds like it was just laid out. The red carpet was there.
I tested it out in my living room in my apartment, drew back, checked it out, and it's really cool. You can really film yourself by holding your bow out. And then
Did you dry fire your bow a couple times to see what it would do when you
shattered the
it?
cams, just wrecked them. But yeah, so I decided to film with the iPhone only from here on out for a while until I have enough money to invest into another camera. But honestly, this iPhone can just shoot amazing footage. And that deer was out there 20 yards, like as he's running, you can see him coming the whole way. And this is just your iPhone. Like, it's just incredible. So that's the little hack right there.
Yeah, that's an awesome little budget tip. That's a great write it in pen tip.
A lot of people already have an iPhone.
Exactly. Right. You don't have to
So instead of buying a camera,
sitting to my right, spend a bunch of money on a camera. If you don't have the money to buy that camera, everyone's got a phone, and write it in pen. Right there it is with Hunter.
There it is. So yep, iPhone video quality.
Well, we've been at it for, I don't know what, probably around an hour or so.
I'd say over an hour.
Over an hour. Well, go around the table. I mean, I don't think anyone else has anything else we need to cover for today, do we?
Well, did you give us the recovery of that buck before we go away?
Well, you have to check the video out once I edit it, but pretty shaken up. I shoot this deer, quartering to me. It gets down. I heard him crash up. It's hardwoods, goes right to a thicket. You can't see in the thicket. Step down, go check out where I shot him. No arrow, no blood. Holy smokes, what did I just do? Did I make the wrong choice? Alright, I'm going to take a few steps. I'm going to go just look right in the thicket where I heard him crash up and see if he's laying there. No shit. Take 3 steps, and I just see a big old white belly laying. Run up there, and there he is. I just see, big rack laying in the woods, and picked him up, and he turned out to be a really nice 7-point. So
I apologize. I stepped out for a second there. Did you talk about the attire you were wearing on this hunt?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's an important thing.
This is extremely cool to me, so I had to bring it up.
Yeah, we posted the buck on our Instagram actually. So if you want to get the full picture down, it's back a couple of months, obviously, in archery season. But
look for a big buck alert. It's one of the first big buck alerts we have of the season.
So I had this inspiration from Jeremiah Johnson and a couple of them old timers wearing these old hats. I'm like, yo, you know what? I got this old hat my great grandpap gave me before he passed away. I was like, I'm gonna wear this all hunting season. And I put
That's freaking cool, man.
I put a
That's-
turkey
it gives
feather
me
in there,
chills.
and I was like, we're gonna do this. And I ended up shooting one of my best. I'd say it's probably my third or fourth best archery buck.
That's all. And it's funny you say that about the hat because me, Nick, and Tom, that
was long before Whitecat was even thought of.
I was just gonna say that, like from day one, when, like I said in the first podcast, the first time we said Whitecat Outdoors out loud, Nick and Tom and me, we all, like, for ice fishing, for archery hunting, for rifle, we all bought the same hat. So every season we had the same hat. We're all.
What are those hats for each season?
Give them the rundown, starting at archery, because that's actually turkey. Let's start at turkey because that's the beginning of the year.
All right, you got the boonie hat. I don't know if everybody knows what a boonie hat is. I don't really know how to describe it.
It's like, think of
It's like a hat from the
but
boonies.
with a brim
All the way
whole
around.
way around.
And it's floppy.
with
You
an
got-
attached face mask.
Yeah, attached
important.
face. That's the most important part. You got to
Classic
drop
turkey
that
hunting
face
mask.
mask down for when you're turkey hunting.
Tom, and I just, real quick, Tom's has got some sentimental value to his. It's not just one we purchased. It's actually a boonie hat that my father has worn. My dad's hunted turkeys all over the Midwest. He's killed, Rios, Easterns, Merriams. He's got some crazy stories with turkey that I'm not going to leak because I'm going to talk him into getting on this cast, the podcast. And
But basically,
Sorry, Nick
the
stepped on
same
a cat's
hat
tail.
my dad killed his first longbeard in is the same hat that I wear when I go turkey hunting.
Yeah. So
did you kill
stories
your
like
first
that-
long beard in this hat?
I have yet to kill a longbeard, but I plan on killing my first longbeard wearing this hat.
But so, I mean,
Tom
stories
has
like
killed
that,
lots of
it's-
birds.
Yeah, he's killed a lot of small birds.
Actually,
but
put me on my daily double I got with Grimaldi.
that's a
I
fact.
tell
that
you
was
what,
pretty cool.
I may
No.
not kill a lot of birds, but I have called in. I'm not to brag or anything.
I will
but-
vouch for this because Tom and I hunt together a lot.
You got Trevor Kuhn, his first gobbler
On
as well.
I'm not even gonna say it.
on Frank's dad's lease. We'll just
Yikes.
say that. They knew I was there. Long
Didn't think
story
you'd be
short-
killing birds like you were.
I think
but
we're gonna have to do another podcast.
Yeah, this
I want
is
to hear a
whole new separate
podcast on.
Bottom
this
line
turkey
is,
hunt.
not to brag, I think I'm a pretty decent turkey caller. I've called turkeys in for quite a few different people. And
Especially my favorite story is the guy that you ran into behind the house and you called a turkey in for him and he didn't shoot.
yeah, that was a little bit irritating.
Can you just quick rundown of that? Because he's probably never going to end up on a podcast.
Don't even get way into it. I don't want to get like super off topic because we're still on Hunter's hat over here. I was just trying to give a quick rundown of everything. So.
Anyway, so boonie hats for turkey season. Archery hat, we got our visors with like the
Guy
little-
Fury hat.
yeah,
exactly.
they're
With, like, the-
pretty sweet.
the spiked fake hair in the middle. Ice fishing, we got our Mad Bombers hat. And of course, for muzzleloader season, since in Pennsylvania it starts the day after Christmas, we wear our Santa hats.
You skipped rifle season though,
My bad.
and for rifle season we have orange laws and PA.
Blaze orange fedoras.
They look pretty sexual. So now that we've given you the rundown on our hats, we
And
didn't
how
mean to interrupt
important
you.
your hat is to your hunting
Yeah, it's
or
very,
fishing.
very important.
Hunter, please
So,
tell us the
my
importance of your
It's
hat.
probably from the 30s or the 40s. I don't know what do you call that hat? It just looks like a I don't know, like a fedora?
It's almost like a fedora.
It's not a fedora though.
It's shaped
There's
moderately
there's
similar, but
It
it's
looks like a
Stetson model
something
that's
a
very
mobber
similar
would
in
to
do.
it.
between
Mafia.
of a cowboy hat and a fedora.
It's like a lawyer cowboy.
If you want to see it, just follow us
Let's
on
go check it
Instagram.
there
and-
you go.
And you'll
At
be able to
Whitecat
see this hat
Outdoors.
firsthand.
So I
Boom.
wore that all hunting season, muzzleloader season. I call it my mountain man hat, but so I put a turkey
Well, that's what it
feather
is.
in
That is a
there and-
mountain man's hat.
Yep. In rifle season, I put a little orange cap over it, and so we were legal. And hunted the heck out of that this season.
That's cool as hell. It's just like I'm all about like your vintage camo and stuff, and most of mine doesn't have a ton of sentimental values like yours does. But I do have a turkey vest that my grandfather killed his grandson.
No, shut up about that. Talk about your bibs, cowboy. Those things are ridiculous.
We'll get into my bibs. So I am not what you would consider a youth large anymore. I am 35 years old. I
am divorced.
So I got a pair of bibs for Christmas when I was probably like 12. And they're a youth large. They're Cabela's. They're like snow pants, super insulated, super warm. And like I said, this is 10 years now. I've been sneaking into these bad boys when we go hunting. And every year I tell Frank, I'm like, this is the last year I'm going to get myself into these because it's just, they're getting a little too tight. They're starting to look ridiculous. They
started to look ridiculous about 7 years ago.
I wear an XL for most like generic sizes.
Aren't those bibs XLs though?
Youth large.
XL.
Youth large.
Youth versus men. Okay, that's a
just
big
give you an idea.
difference.
Tom dates this girl Carly, and she fits in to these.
She is like 5'6", 5'7", maybe $130, soaking wet, and they fit her perfectly.
I'm like $1.240 without
$1.240.
That's after a sauna, and I've dried out. And those bibs, they went. Bibs are supposed to come up above your chest.
Right.
They look. They're down to my waist now.
They went from bibs to pants, but they still got the straps.
It's like a pants suspenders combo.
And I still get into them, and I've never killed anything wearing them because I only put them on for muzzleloader. And like I said, I'm all about, there's actually no sentimental value to those at all, really. I don't know why I put myself through it.
It's all about, because it's tradition.
I can't even get my hands in my pockets.
It's tradition.
It's literally
tradition.
And let us know on YouTube or Instagram or something if you guys got any funny traditions that you do for fishing or hunting or whatever that you swear by that get you
Luke, do you have any fishing traditions is the question. We need to get you like a hat or something.
That's gonna have to be on a separate podcast.
Right.
Well, we should actually. There could be a really cool podcast about just traditions in the hunting and fishing. Because I think every single group of people that hunt have some sort of tradition or weird thing they do, whether it's a snake bite or who
even
knows?
If it's
there's
just
all kinds of things.
Meeting at hunting camp every year on the same weekend or something like.
Right.
There's always something, and that's what makes it fun.
Even fishing.
Getting to bed early before opening day of gun.
Absolutely. That is something we take very seriously up at the Morrison farm.
For those of you that don't know Tom, his favorite thing in the world, like more than anything, is to be ridiculously hungover for the first day of rifle.
It's honestly a skill I've acquired over the past several years, is getting all tuned up the night before.
Could you please say tuned?
Tuned.
Getting tuned up, like tuned in to the Whitecat Outdoors podcast. Getting tuned up the night before and still managing to find your way out to the tree stand opening morning.
It's a grind.
It is.
It is a grind.
It's something I pride myself in. Not many people can do it. Not to shout out, but my one buddy Trevor, he can't get all tuned up the night before, and
only once a week.
Yeah, once a week.
There's 7 days in a week. Trevor can handle one of them.
Yeah, but even after that, he's not getting up to hunt the next day.
Actually, speaking of, real quick, Trevor, we had him up at camp, this camp that me and Tom and Frank and our fathers helped build from scratch. We brought Trevor up there. We were trying to get him his first buck, and he did get his first buck in rifle season. But while we were there for bow season, I was on a 5-point out of my one tree stand that I hunt religiously, and I told Trevor, I'm like, listen, if you just go to my tree stand, he's guaranteed to walk by there about like an hour after daylight. He's gonna walk right through there. There's 2 pieces of bedding. He walks through every day. We get Trevor up there. He has a little too much fun. He wasn't feeling well the next morning, and he didn't hunt.
Hungover
So I
for
was
the
like, you know what?
lapers.
Chocolate rain.
I'm
Totally
sorry
unrelated.
I'm sorry to interrupt your chocolate rain. I actually got to get heading out, guys. But I had an awesome time talking with you, Hunter. Again, on your company, congrats. I'm sure I'll see you in the next couple of days after you heal up a little bit and do some fishing.
Maybe some arm wrestling?
Yeah, when you heal up, I'll break
His
the
left
table out
arm's
again.
still strong.
Yeah, we can go lefty. Doctors say you heal up twice as strong when a bone breaks. So
odds of you
I'll
breaking again
consider it.
are slim to none.
But
I think
Nick
I'm
and Tom,
retired for good.
As we live
See you,
together,
Luke. Thank you for stepping in.
I'll probably see you tonight. And Frank, always good time talking with you. So I'll see you guys later.
Luke, I'll
Thanks.
catch you on the flip.
Catch you on the flip, buddy.
Luke, hey, make sure you're getting outside.
Always. Hunter, Nick, Frank. Everyone left me hanging, so I was just clapping.
Yeah, those were high fives. But anyway, so Trevor slept in. He didn't make it to the stand, so I decided to hunt the stand I recommended to him. And I sent him a picture of that buck at 15 yards. Like, it was right there. I'm like, Trevor, it could have been yours. And I thought about waxing that fool. And I couldn't do it. That was Trevor's buck. And I'm pretty confident that he did get it in rifle season. He had broken off a side, but I'm pretty sure it was the same buck.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it was the same. And whether it was a half rack, a 5-point, whatever it was his first buck, so it was really something special
We
for him.
partied like rock stars, and we had a delicious cuisine set up for that evening. That's a tradition we have here at Whitecat
It was a
Outdoors.
cuisine fit for Gordon Ramsay.
It was.
I'm talking inside.
The lamb sauce was there.
Inside tenderloins and venison. Tenderloins.
And buck grand.
Buck heart, potatoes, carrots, onions, you name it.
It was
Mix
in
it
there.
up in a pan. Pour some Jenny beer on it.
You're giving away
saute it.
another smoke break. What are you doing, cowboy?
My bad.
Forget it. We didn't talk about
It
it.
was delish.
Hope you wrote that in pencil.
Luke, I thought you left.
I was leaving, but I heard Tom leaking some content. So if you're in pencil, erase that, or pen, scribble it out.
Well, it has been a long podcast, so it was almost time for another smoke break. But we're going to save it for the next guy.
Needless to say, Trevor can't bark with the big dogs.
He meows with the
meows
kittens.
with the kittens. He can't drink all night, hunt big bucks in the morning. But your host, Tom, he knows how to bark with the big dogs, drink beer all night, and hunt big bucks in the morning.
That's Tom for you.
And when you asked why I was coming back, I also I forgot I'm Hunter's ride, so I got to stick around for a little bit longer here.
Oh, man.
We're pretty close to wrapping things up.
So, yeah, it's where is Hunter, by the way? Obviously, if you're on the podcast, you didn't know that Hunter left.
He's
But,
been drinking some beers, so he's probably going to take a squeege.
Yeah, he's going to see a man about a wallaby.
And we're back. Hunter's back. Everybody's back. Luke's gone.
So not everybody's back.
Yeah, so Luke had to peace out. This podcast went a lot longer than we thought, but all the same, it was a really good podcast, and I wasn't about to cut it off. Like I said, we're getting ready to wrap up here, like Frank said. Hunter, it's been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. You're our first guest, which is insane. To have you as like the first guest, I mean, that's something we're always going to be able to talk about.
It's been a blast, and thanks for having me on, guys. It was really just a really fun time overall, and I hope to be back on and talk some more about hunting, fishing, and the great outdoors.
And I just I got to ask if there was one thing you could leave our listeners with, being that you're our first podcast, if you could, sign us off as for one thing to leave the listeners with, what would it be?
Oh, let me think about this one here. Well, I'd say one thing for your listeners to take it. Well, I have
thousands of listeners.
Two
we have.
things. The most two important lessons I'd say from this podcast and what I've learned is, one, support local business, help out your local entrepreneurs in their journey to where they're headed, and give them shout outs, especially social media. Give these guys some good light on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you can do to help grow Whitecat. And the second thing is if you're an outdoorsman, if you're not, just really take conservation into heart and take care of our environment, our earth, and the woods that we all cherish as outdoorsmen. Our rivers, our mountains, our woods. So yeah, that's I'd say the most 2 important lessons.
Thanks, Hunter. Like you said, give us a follow on Instagram at Whitecat Outdoors. We're on YouTube, Whitecat Outdoors. www.whitecatoutdoors.com. You can check us out. We've got a little bit of a write-up on all of our hosts, and all of our podcasts are on there as well, as long as Spotify, Spreaker, Podbean. We're working on getting Apple and Google, iHeartRadio, different things like that. But like I said, we're big into the outdoors. Hunter's big into the outdoors, and we're just want to make sure that everybody's with us on that, and we're all getting outside.